Your life won't change until your self-image does. Now, psychocybernetics talks about how important your self-image is if you want to build success. And that also, maybe the real problem isn't your strategy, maybe it's not even your motivation or your discipline, but it's just the way you see yourself. If you haven't read this book, I would highly recommend reading it and also watching this video to understand the full gist. There's an amazing quote that goes, "You will always take action in alignment with the way you see yourself. You can never outperform your self-image." As long as your self-image stays the same, you will keep seeing the same results in your life no matter what you do. No matter how hard you work, you'll stay at the same income. Your habits in your life and your relationships and everything will stay the same. Now in this video today, I'm breaking down exactly why your life won't change until your self-image does. Let's get right into it. These 3 parts are going to change your life, and make sure you take out a notebook just like this. Take some notes, because information without implementation is just productive procrastination. Now let's get into part number 1. Your self-image is your invisible ceiling. You see, everybody talks about habits, but nobody talks about the identity that actually creates habits. You see, behind every single habit that you do is an identity, is a self-image. And if you think about your results, your life and your results is just a combination of habits, the way you spend your time, and the things that you do. The actions you take every single day create the life that you live. And the way to change the action that you take is by aligning your self-image with where you want to be. Let's talk about the identity thermostat. Just like a regular thermostat, if you set the thermostat to 23 degrees, then even if the room gets warmer, for some reason it gets hotter, the thermostat kicks in and it brings down the room back to baseline. In the same opposite way, if the room gets colder than 23, the thermostat kicks in and regulates back up to baseline, which is 23. So for example, let's say your identity thermostat is stuck at 10K a month, meaning that in terms of income, you see yourself as a person who makes 10K, no more, no less. It doesn't matter how good of a month you have. If you hit 15 to 20K, you will always self-sabotage to return back to baseline. And even if things go wrong and you fall below, you will find a way to get back up. You'll just make the right decisions. Your subconscious will essentially take you there. Now, your brain isn't trying to make you successful. It is just trying to be consistent with who you think you are. If deep down you still see yourself as somebody who struggles or somebody who's inconsistent or procrastinates, then you will subconsciously find a way to prove yourself correct. Your subconscious and brain, they love nothing more than to be right. So if you give yourself a standard, if you set a standard for yourself for how you want to live your life, then you're always going to rise to that standard. So let me ask you this personal question. Yes, you watching this video right now. If somebody watched your actions for a week, they watch how you live, how you think, and how you feel, what would they think your identity is? The reason why self-image is the #1 biggest driver for success, and that if you don't change your self-image, nothing else changes, is just because of the subconscious. In case you didn't know, just to break this down, you have the conscious and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is your logical thinking. It is just you thinking and being conscious and awake. The subconscious mind is the reason why your heart beats, the reason why you digest food. It is the reason why your blood flows in your body, and all this happens on autopilot. The subconscious controls and drives so many functions of the human body and mind without you even being conscious of it. That is why it is the subconscious. And in the same way, your subconscious actually creates your reality more than you think, because it drives the way you make decisions, it drives the way you feel, and that affects the way you act. There's a really cool quote I found online. It goes like this: how you think creates how you feel becomes an emotion, and that emotion becomes a vibration, and that vibration is a magnet that attracts things to you or repels things from you. Only think about what you want and never think about what you don't want. Your mind is a magnet. Whatever you think is going to eventually become your life. I remember in the early days of YouTube when I was dreaming of becoming a full-time creator, making videos just like this, and I was literally dreaming of reaching 100K subs, having the plaque over there, and so many things that I've now achieved that are in my life right now. I just had that dream. And I remember thinking about it so often, thinking about it every single day. I would just visualize and imagine success. And now I'm here with exactly the things that I previously thought about and visualized. You see, everything you think changes your life. Your life is headed in the direction of your strongest thought. But the caveat here is there is a time delay. What you're thinking today, tomorrow, within a month, usually creates an effect after a couple of months. There's always this time delay. So like if you're thinking positive and successful thoughts for the next couple of weeks, you're not going to see that until maybe a couple months later. But still, self-image comes from your thoughts. You know, the way you see yourself, your identity, your self-image, according to psycho-cybernetics over here, affects your thoughts and that affects your actions. And that either makes it harder for you to do the actions consistently enough to scale, or it makes it easier for you to do what you have to do. And let me tell you this, the biggest changes in my physique, in my business, in my YouTube growth, it didn't happen with better strategies. It happened when I changed the way I saw myself. When I'm out with family, having coffee with some friends, when I'm out with my girlfriend, I always mention the same thing. I find myself, not always, but I find myself a lot of the times talking about self-image and specifically talking about, you know, how I personally, like, so much in my life changed the moment I started to lift and upgrade my self-image. Previously, before a certain time, I actually had a low self-worth, low self-image. In that way, I didn't really believe that I deserved success. I didn't really believe that I deserved to be disciplined and, you know, productive. And because of that, I always found myself returning to the bad habits, returning to scrolling, returning to wasting time and making bad decisions. Because my self-image had to prove me correct. And that takes me into the next part, but before that, comment down below if you're into the identity aspect of self-improvement, because I think that's a huge part of self-improvement, especially discipline. Behind every decision, behind every habit, behind every income, behind every business is discipline. It is you, it is your identity. So part number 2, your self-image is always trying to prove itself. I remember for a certain time, there was this hoodie that I would always wear. For some reason, I would just always wear that hoodie. No matter if I bought new clothes, no matter if I bought a new hoodie, I would just always wear that one. And that's exactly how identity works. It always wants to go back to what is familiar. You keep wearing an outdated version of yourself, not because it's good for you, but just because it's comfortable and familiar. And once you understand that, you can actually change it. Once you understand that the reason why you are not living your dream life, the reason why you are not where you want to be, you're not making the money you want to be making, the reason why everything isn't exactly as you want it is because of one simple thing. The change that you were seeking is uncomfortable. It is unfamiliar. It is a gray zone. It is something that, you know, your brain doesn't even know what is coming. And that creates fear. And that fear of change stops you subconsciously from seeking out that change. So even though you say you want to reach new levels, even though you say you want to scale your income to 20, 30K, even though you say, for example, you want to build a better physique, even though you say you want to be productive and focused, you say these things, but deep down on a subconscious level, you don't really want them. There might even be a negative subconscious association with your goals. Let me explain. On the front end, on the conscious level, you say, I want to make more money. But on the subconscious level, in your mind, from experience, you know that more money is associated to more problems. Maybe, you know, friends, you're going to lose some friends, some family's going to ask you for money, things are going to happen, you're going to have more stress and more responsibilities. And as a result, subconsciously, you're blocking yourself from getting to that goal. Same thing with building a better physique. You might be like, oh, if I build a better physique, it's going to be more struggle. I have to diet more. I have to count my calories, track, you know, maybe spend more on food, maybe spend more on supplements and all that stuff. And consciously, yeah, why wouldn't you want to get a better physique? Of course you want that. But subconsciously, you don't want that because that goal is associated to problems. So a strong way to change your self-image to align with your goal and your future self and where you want to go is by identifying your goals, your top 5 goals. Take out a notebook and write them down. And then write down what could possibly be a negative association, a negative thing that just happens when I reach that goal. And whatever comes down, those are negative subconscious associations. And chances are those are holding you back from getting to where you want to be. So you need to break those negative associations and replace them with something positive. And once you understand that, you can change every part of your self-image to become more successful. Self-image and success are one and one. They are pretty much the same thing. You see, motivation raises your results in the short term, but your identity, that is what actually determines where your results stay. You ever notice how somebody loses weight and then they get compliments and then all of a sudden, weeks later, months later, they return back to the same habits and they start gaining weight again? That was never a strategy or a diet problem. That was simply an identity problem. If you still see yourself as a person who procrastinates deep down, then no amount of discipline, no amount of strategy is going to help you. Discipline is also changing your self-image. It is also changing these beliefs. So the moment you change the way you see yourself internally, your concept of self, that is when your results change. Instead of trying to build disciplined habits on top of an identity that doesn't even match, you need to first set the foundation, change the identity, become a person who is disciplined, and then the habits and the actions, they follow. So if you want to become more disciplined, you need to see yourself as more disciplined, as more productive. If you want to make more money, you need to see yourself as a person who can make more money and handle that abundance, the responsibility, and who is worth that amount. Let me tell you something about self-image. Your self-worth, meaning how valuable you see yourself as, which is also your self-image, which also relates to how confident you are. If you have a high self-worth, you're going to be having a high income, a good life, good relationships, good health, and everything is going to be good. But if you have a low self-worth, then you will always find yourself struggling to make ends meet, low income, poor relationships, a bad relationship with yourself, and also poor health. Self-image is a decision of the mind, and it is that simple if you allow it to be. If you think that you need some complex change to shift your identity, then just think about this. Right now, you could decide to become a different person and change your self-image. And a quote that I love, you will always find evidence for the person that you believe you are. If you're enjoying this video, subscribe to the channel for weekly videos just like this to help you change your life and your identity. Part number 3, building proof, not confidence. Instead of saying, I want to become disciplined, ask yourself, what would a disciplined person do in the next 5 minutes? Instead of saying, I want to start reading, just tell yourself, I will become somebody who reads by reading 1 page today. Instead of dreaming about becoming an entrepreneur, become an entrepreneur, become that identity right now by sending out 1 email, creating a new offer, solving 1 problem, and taking the actions that an entrepreneur takes. Whatever version of yourself you want to be, whatever you want to achieve, you need to start taking action that creates evidence that you are that person. Your identity and self-image are created and shaped through evidence. The more you give yourself evidence for the person you are becoming, the easier it is going to be to stick with that. The more your identity is going to shift. Every action you take is a vote for the new person that you are becoming. Imagine placing 1 brick every single day to build a house. 1 brick doesn't look like a house. Even 100 bricks in, it doesn't even look like a house. But eventually, when you're getting closer and closer, when you keep on building and adding and laying bricks, eventually you start to see more of the house, and then you see the final product. Identity works the same way. 1 action doesn't change who you are, but thousands of repeated, consistent daily steps, daily actions change how you see yourself. It all starts with that first brick, because 1 positive action that aligns with who you want to be, the life you want to live, is enough to set you in motion, to get the ball rolling, to make you feel like you're building this momentum. Action inspires more action. So if you start off by using discipline, by using a little bit of willpower to take those actions, to put yourself outside your comfort zone and take those actions and create that new evidence, you are going to create an upward spiral where you take more action. Hence, you see yourself more like that, which means that it's easier to take that action. I'll give you an example with reading. Let's say I don't see myself as a person who reads. The best thing I can do is just pick up any book and start reading 1 page, 2 pages, it doesn't matter. And when I do that, I will start seeing myself more as a reader. And then after a week or 2 of reading, my identity is improved. And because of that, when I want to read next week, it's going to be easier. The more I read, the easier it gets to read because I see myself as more of a reader. You can apply this not just to reading, but to making more money, making more income, building and scaling your business, building a better physique, and improving your life in all aspects. This is like the Batman effect. You need to know exactly who you are becoming. You need to have a picture in your mind and visualize what success looks like for you. Visualize that successful person, the successful version of yourself. The first hour after you wake up and the last hour before you go to sleep, you need to do visualization. Just relax, get into a relaxed state, and visualize the person you want to become. That most successful version of yourself who has everything that you want to achieve. Identify who you want to be and just take the steps every day to become that person. But none of this works without one thing, which is self-image plus discipline. You see, identity and discipline, they work hand in hand. If you have one, but not the other, or the other, but not the other, then it's not going to work. You need both in unison, and that's exactly where the discipline mentorship comes in. Now, in the discipline mentorship, you will receive personal coaching from myself that is going to help you in these 3 areas. Number 1 is dopamine rewiring. Number 2 is identity shifting. And number 3 is focus mastery. So dopamine rewiring focuses on lowering your dopamine baseline, using dopamine protocols to help make the action easier to take. Everything from the habits to the deep work, it all becomes easier once you lower the dopamine baseline. Number 2 is identity shifting. And the second thing, identity shifting, that's exactly what this video was about. Changing your self-image so that you don't have a ceiling above your head. So you can finally achieve what you wanted because your identity is in full alignment with where you want to be. And number 3, focus mastery, designing an environment, your daily environment, so that it helps you succeed and it doesn't make it harder for you to focus. In the age of distraction, you have so many distractions around you. You have so many things that pull your attention away from focus. And in order to build success, you need deep focus. And that is where environment engineering comes in. So if you want to learn more, click the link in the description below and watch that video over there. It explains everything. And then you can apply and book a call, and we'll see if you're the right fit to work together. And remember, your level of success never exceeds your level of discipline. Take care, and you got this.